Before we talk about Fiston Mayele coming to Kaizer Chiefs, given Msimango potentially going overseas, and the complications with the Riaan Hanamub deal, let me just apologize because we're supposed to have a live stream as I promised yesterday, but the problem is I forgot that there was a parents meeting. I'm a teacher, so I had to attend to that. So yeah, just came out, now I'm making a video on YouTube. Right. Hello and welcome to Khosi Nation Fan TV. I am Pelo, I am your host, and this is where fans meet and talk about Kaizer Chiefs. Khosi Football Club. Okay, let's start with Fiston Mayele, who, according to Kickoff, is keen to come to Kaizer Chiefs and work with Nasruddin Nabi again. If you don't know who Fiston Mayele is, he's a Congolese striker who currently plays for Pyramids FC. And in the past 2 seasons alone, he has contributed to more than 50 goals. So it's fair to say he's a goal and assist machine at this point. And not to mention that the other season, last season, wasn't playing for Pyramids. Well, not last season as in because their season's still ongoing. But the season before this one that they're still playing in Egypt, he was playing under Nasruddin Nabi and he was still scoring goals. The problem is the fact that he cost 30 million. That's the quoted fee that we're hearing being thrown around. And as much as he might be willing to come to Kaizer Chiefs, there's also that factor that can Kaizer Chiefs pay 30 million? There are other risks that are involved, because the reality is we can sit here and talk about how Kaizer Chiefs should break the bank, how much Kaizer Chiefs need a prolific striker. But the thing is, would Kaizer Chiefs risk paying that much money for a striker? Because the thing of him being a foreigner is not a big deal. They can just find a solution and probably loan out Usaile. I mean, that's not a bigger problem. So they can deal with the foreign sport thing, but the issue is the money that they're going to pay up front, which is 30 million. But on top of that, we know this. If a player comes for a high fee, that means he's also going to be paid a high fee. Now, after what happened with Utoli and him and also Billiard and, all these players who are getting paid a high amount of money sometimes end up giving a club a problem in the long term, because now that means he costs 30 million, but also his salary, let's say it's 500,000, for example, per month. That means now he's costing Chiefs 12 million each year on top of the 30 million, which means 42 million that's going to just go to Mayele over the next 12 months. So I think if you look at it that way, it's not just about the transfer fee, but it's also about the wages that you'll be paying to the player. So as much as Latum is saying this, I will say that, Kickoff, I will say I'm not categorically denying that this would ever happen. But yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm saying. I don't see how this happens. I really don't. So you guys, I know you have those wishes, but just look at it from that point of view that is why Chiefs will not or might not be signing him. And this has nothing to do with someone not wanting to sell to us. But looking at the goals that he scored, he's probably worth that price tag. So there we go. Now, given him Msimango, there are talks, and I usually, we talk about Latuma and we say, oh, they are not a good source, blah, blah, blah. Let's just put that aside for a second and say, given him Msimango is apparently wanted by Spartak Moscow in Russia. Yeah. I am asking based on what, right? Because, given him Msimango, don't get me wrong, based on how he played, the TS Galaxy is a very good player. And if Spartak Moscow had come out wanting him last season, I would get it. Okay, great. But at the same time, when he was playing at Kaizer Chiefs last season, I did not see none of that. However, I'll say this. Just because he was not good last season for Kaizer Chiefs, that does not mean scouts of these big teams see him, right? Because it does not mean they don't see the potential that he or the things that he can do. Like Tekusiyabonga Ngezana, so many people were critical of Ngezana, talking about how Ngezana has mistakes, how Ngezana is not comfortable on the ball. Guess what? A team in Romania that is currently on their way to qualifying to play in the Champions League spotted him and they were like, hey, there's a player there. And they went and they got Ngezana. So I wouldn't dismiss this thing entirely, because even this guy Urashun Totally, yes, he was getting called up to Bafana under 23 squad, not under 23 squad, Bafana that played COSAFA Cup, but it was just one of those players who they were looking at, experimenting on, and all of that stuff. But the moment he joins Kaizer Chiefs, now he's getting called up to the main Bafana, which tells me that as much as he did impress in the COSAFA Cup, there are other players who have played in the COSAFA Cup but ended up not being called up to the main Bafana, right? So now, given that Totally also gets called up to Bafana, to me it also says, yes, he performed well before, but also there's that thing, when you're playing for Kaizer Chiefs, there's just an extra spotlight. You are now in the limelight. People now see you more. And even the things that you are doing in a lower division team like Cape Town Spurs, but now that you're at Kaizer Chiefs, you play a 30-meter pass, people are like, oh wow, it's really good. You do that Cape Town Spurs, you are being watched by 3,000 people or less. But you do that for Kaizer Chiefs, it's 3 million. And now all of a sudden, everyone knows about you. So I think that audience and the platform that Kaizer Chiefs gives to these players is also a very good thing. However, even the people who are reporting this thing on Latuma, they are saying that they don't see this happening, and I also don't see it happening, because Kaizer Chiefs right now, they just signed a defender to replace a defender who's injured and basically strengthen the backline of Chiefs after signing Utut to strengthen the defense. Now I don't see them letting go from Msimango, unless, also the report is saying the same thing, unless the money is good. But how good can the money be for Msimango? His market value is 24 million rands. Now, the question is, if Spartak Moscow comes in and they say, hey, we're going to give you 30 million for Msimango, what do you do if you are Kaizer Chiefs? Do you take that 30 million, let Msimango go and reinvest that money? The problem is now, where are we going to find a defender of Msimango's caliber, because he's probably going to cost quite a lot. So that's a question I have for you before we go to the other story. Do you let go from Msimango, or do you hold on to him because he's one of your better defenders and he can help strengthen the squad? While you are here, please do make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'm just going to look at you while you do it. Thank God. Okay, now, Riaan Hanamub, a wanted left back by Kaizer Chiefs, who currently plays for AmaZulu. No, don't worry about him being from Namibia. He has nationalized. Is that the word? Or natural? I don't know. But basically, he can now be registered as a South African player. So we don't have to worry about a foreign sport when it comes to Riaan Hanamub. Problem is, he plays for AmaZulu. Problem is, it's two things. One, AmaZulu are ambitious. They want to be better. They want to compete with Chiefs. So they don't want to be selling players to Chiefs. But at the same time, there is the conspiracy theory that these teams don't want to sell to Chiefs. However, there's always a however. AmaZulu kind of don't have a choice now, do they? Because right now, Riaan Hanamub is in his last year of his contract, which means he can literally join any other team next year for free. He can sign a pre-contract with Chiefs in January, just for Chiefs to sell them and say, you didn't want to sell us the player, so we're getting him for free. However, because there's always another however. Can't you don't you learn? Just said it. There's always a however. Because as much as we say AmaZulu might not have a choice but to sell the player, but Chiefs are also sort of kind of desperate, because if Utotli ends up playing as a centre back, then Hanamub is needed desperately at left back, because clearly it doesn't seem like they trust Umashiane. Bongani is injured, or if he gets injured again, right? So we have a problem. So we do need a left back. So now it's that game of chicken, Uguti, who's going to blink first, because the market value Riaan Hanamub is 17 million rands, but with a year remaining on his contract, I don't think that that's how much money he will be worth or would cost. But at the same time, however, there is that whole thing of AmaZulu would want to get something for him, right? And on top of that, there's also the fact that Chiefs does not really entertain like signings or potential signings if they're too expensive. And I don't think that they would have gone there if they knew that he was too expensive for them. So I think that this deal could still happen if Chiefs probably offers 7 million, because that's just below half his market value. And given that they might lose him for free in 6 months, I think Amazon would take 7 million, even 5 at this point. But how much money do you think Riaan Hanamub is worth? Do let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, remember, equals and Pelumo.